Mental health is as critical, if not more critical, than physical health. Our guest, Ryan Schwartz, is committed to making therapy more accessible. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America. Welcome to this special episode. Ryan Schwartz is the founder of Mental Health Match, a free platform that makes it easy to find a therapist. Ryan is a wholehearted believer in the power of therapy, which he learned while grieving the sudden loss of his mother in 2013. Prior to Mental Health Match, Ryan was a strategic communications consultant for nonprofit organizations. We welcome him for his first appearance on Saving America.
Well, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be talking about such an important topic.
Sounds good. As you know, we ask our guests 3 questions. And our first one is, you indicate the importance of therapy, and with regard to the sudden loss of your mother in 2013, what would you like to share with our audience about the sad event and how therapy helped you in that situation?
That's a great question. Um, you know, this was the first time I had ever thought about therapy. And so when I lost my mom, it had never really occurred to me actually to go to therapy. And a friend looked at the grief that I was going through and said, "It's time. You need to talk to somebody." I grew up in Houston, and I grew up in a household where we didn't really talk about feelings all too much. And certainly the culture around me was not one that talked about feelings. It was very much, just man up, deal with it, move on, kind of ignore it. And so that was kind of the approach that I had through a lot of my life. And when my friend saw what I was going through after the loss of my mom and said, "Okay, now's the time, you should try this." At first it was helpful in getting me through the rough parts of my grief experience. Therapy helps me understand my needs. One of the things I had I took a leave from work, and I was really taking care of my dad. I'm an only child. So I kind of stepped up, and everything was being channeled through what I needed to do with my dad. And I kind of ignored my own needs. And so it took me quite a while to find a therapist who I really connected with. The beginning, I got a lot of, "Oh, I'm so sorry this happened to you." And I kind of wasn't looking for that kind of softness. I wanted somebody who could really help me move and be, kind of more type A about it, which is how I am. And so therapy got me through those rough parts. But then I started to dig a little bit deeper, and I shifted to understanding my grief to really using therapy to be more about growth. So I understand patterns that I had never really thought about. Like, I kind of knew I did certain things, but I didn't understand the reasons why. And after, losing my mom and going to therapy, I started to learn that emotions are really a tool. They're a signal to learn from. And this was really different than how I grew up, where I kind of learned that emotions are something to be ignored or move on from. And so I really started to embrace learning from my feelings. I understood more about what I was doing to cope with discomfort or to get away from discomfort instead of having more challenging conversations either with myself or with other people. And I think, going through this process, we're starting therapy after a crisis moment and really having to get through a rough part, and then realizing that there was so much more potential there for therapy. I think I learned that therapy is actually something that strong people do, that people who want to grow do, that therapy and being able to really identify and communicate what you're feeling is the best way to be the person that you want to be. No matter how much you go to the gym or you go to church or you do whatever you do, none of it matters that much if you're ignoring your subconscious, because that's where your decisions get made. And I think that is something that therapy has helped me realize, is that there is all sorts of things happening in your subconscious that we don't know. And if you don't take a moment in your week to explore that and to do that with a trained guide, you're making decisions and you're acting in certain ways that you don't even realize why you're doing that. And so all of these other tools of self-care and relaxation and going to the gym and religion and spirituality, those have an impact. But if underneath the surface you're not looking what's there, they don't have as much of an impact as they can. And I think that this period of growth going from a crisis moment, realizing that therapy has potential to help, not just in those moments, but to help you be proactively be the person that you want to be. That is something that was really eye-opening to me. And, even though it started with such a sad, tragic moment in my life, I am grateful for this therapy journey to help me realize that there's this tool out there that has so much potential.
That's super, Ryan, and I think there's some very valuable observations there for people about the value of therapy and where it fits into the human experience. Our question number two is about your organization. How does Mental Health Match work, and what is the geographic area that it covers?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I should start with a quick story, which is, as I was looking for a therapist, I told you I kind of had a few that didn't really fit for me. I started asking around, and I asked people, how did you find a therapist? And I talked to a number of people who said, I looked for a while and it was pretty overwhelming. And so I kind of just gave up. And the more people I talked to, the more I heard the story that people were wanting mental health care. They wanted to be proactive about their mental health, and they just couldn't find an option that really suited them. And so, I had this moment where I was at a coffee shop up in the Heights in Houston, and the friend who had encouraged me to go to therapy, I was sitting there looking for a therapist, and she was across from me, and she got on a dating app. And within 3 or 4 minutes, she was being matched with like potential loves of her life. And I was sitting there just scrolling through trying to find a therapist. And I realized the technology exists, right, to help make this easier. And so we started Mental Health Match with the idea that we can better match people and take some of the uncertainty and the overwhelm out of the process of finding a therapist. So the way it works is really easy. It's completely free and it's completely anonymous. You don't need to create a profile or sign in or anything like that. You just go to mentalhealthmatch.com. You click on Get Matched, and we ask you a few questions about what you're looking for. Everything from what you're experiencing, so we make sure that there's a therapist who's got the experience and the capabilities to help you, to your budget, your insurance needs, as well as cultural needs. Maybe you want somebody who is Catholic, or you want somebody who is Black, or you want a male therapist. We take all of these answers into account. We have an algorithm that then matches you to therapists who have answered similar questions, and we know that meet your needs. We started this project in Houston, just connecting the Houston community to mental health. And now we're fully national. We have a network in every state. There's over 7,000 independent therapists in our network. And we help over 12,000 people a week find a therapist who come to us and use our site to easily start connecting with the therapists who are going to best meet their needs.
Well, let me ask you the crass follow-up question. If it's free for the users, how does the site support itself?
That's a great question. So therapists pay a small advertising fee to be a part of the directory. It really is a win-win for everybody. It's so small, the fee that we do charge, that therapists, for them, it's a no-brainer. It's how they run their business. And that way we get to keep it free for people who are looking for therapy. This, core value of ours is we never want to put a barrier in the way of somebody seeking mental health care.
Makes perfect sense. So our question number three is about something that's really been stunning me. The statistics on the significant increase of suicide in the United States, even in the last couple of years. And we tend to blame a lot of stuff on COVID. I'm not sure that that's a fair attribution, other than there's a lot of other stuff going on. But how do you see therapy factoring into this devastating and preventable problem?
Well, so first of all, if you feel in distress, you should be talking to a trained professional. So if you're listening to this and you aren't sure if you're going to harm yourself or harm others, you should call or text 988. It's a free suicide hotline. It's the hotline. It was just created in the States. They will put you in touch immediately with the help that you need. So if you're considering this, you're listening, please use that 988 number. Obviously, I think there's parts of suicidality that come from feelings of loneliness, feelings of self-worth, and people who are seeking relief from a profound discomfort that they're in. Therapy can be really, really helpful for this process because it can help you identify some of those root causes of the distress that you're feeling. And a lot of therapy can actually help you create a plan to deal with some of those things. I think also that therapy is helpful not just for people who are considering suicide, but for the people around them, right? So oftentimes we see somebody who is going through a struggle. We know they're going through a struggle, but we don't know how to talk to the person. They make us uncomfortable because we're uncomfortable talking about emotions and feelings and having hard conversations. And I think therapy can be a really great tool for people who surround somebody in distress, because it equips them with what they need to be proactive and to have hard conversations. I know, especially around teenagers, they go home, parents don't know how to talk to them, or they kind of don't want to talk about emotional things. They have this mentality of just their emotions, just be happy, suck it up, go through your day. And therapy can help people kind of get over that attitude so that you could say, let's have a more honest dialogue. Or I know that we don't have a good relationship. Let's talk about these things. Let's improve it. And that really helps people feel less alone. It helps people feel like they can have conversations. And that, I think, is what helps people move on from a place of suicidality, right? Obviously, they need help as well. They need to go through professional help, but they also need a loving community around them that is willing to be open and have conversations and not just try to fix the person, but to really understand what they're going through and show up and be supportive. And I think that if folks, if everybody was curious enough to just try therapy and to dig deep into their own emotions and their own patterns, I think we would see a lot more connectiveness in our society, a lot less isolation, and I think as a result, a lot less suicidality.
Well, it sounds like definitely a path and something that we need to get the word out, and hopefully some of the people watching this episode of Saving America will follow your good advice. Ryan Schwartz, how can people get more information about you?
Well, thank you. Again, the free website that makes it easy to find a therapist, it's mentalhealthmatch.com. You can also find us on Instagram. We're at Mental Health Match. We're on Twitter, which is Mental Health Match, but there's no vowels in the word health because we're at character limits. The Mental Health Match there. And I'm on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me personally, Ryan Schwartz with Mental Health Match.
Great. Thank you so much. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite platform.